Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Friendly Banter, the podcast exclusively for members of the Friends of Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. I hope you enjoyed your first episode and are ready to jump in for another. So, today, for our July 2026 episode, we have our very first special guest. And today we will be discussing moths and mothing and all that research that is currently happening around the refuge. So, as I mentioned, today we have our first special guest with us. That special guest is Trevor Zook. Say hello to the people, Trevor.
Hello.
Trevor, could you go ahead and tell us what is your job title here?
I don't know that I have a specific job title. I guess we can go with wetland technician.
Wetland technician sounds good. And so you actually started here at the refuge as an intern, correct?
Yeah, initially I was a volunteer. My parents and I monitored the purple martin nesting gourds on the refuge and the tree swallow nest boxes. And from there, I started as a seasonal intern. I did a couple years of different seasonal positions, and now I'm in my current role as a contract employee through our wonderful friends group.
Awesome. How long have you been here in your full-time role?
Oh man, I actually don't know. What was that? 24?
24, so about
24?
3 years?
Yeah, they all kind of blur together now. It's been
But
a while.
You're kind of a
veteran, I guess.
Yeah, I was about to say
marsh.
a relic, but that sounds
relic
bad.
is, I mean,
you've been here for a while, so you have a long history with this place. So it's pretty awesome. So I guess could you give a bit more of a description of what do you do in your day-to-day work here nowadays?
So I do mostly field work, which is good because I prefer being outside than being stuck in an office all day. So I do a lot of invasive species management, habitat management, changing water levels in the units, surveys, whether it's muskrats, frogs, birds, vegetation, a little bit of everything. I've been involved in the hunt program before, and yeah, just whatever they have me do on any given day. I do a lot of tours during the biggest week, but I've kind of become a jack of all trades, so to speak.
Jack of all trades, birding extraordinaire, and now
marsh
Mothman.
rat
Or Mothman. Well. So I know you mentioned you started here as an intern and you're doing a lot of biology work, a lot of our field work. What got you started with the mothing program? Did it start as fun and it transformed into work? Was it work? Was it just kind of an interest you had of reading? How did this all kind of start?
It started as all good stories start with buying a book. Back in 2013, I bought the Peterson Guide to Moths because I thought it would be fun to page through. And now I've recorded over 200 nocturnal surveys in a spreadsheet, and those are just the ones that I've kept track of over the last handful of years. So what started the Ottawa mothing train was I got put in charge of our species list project back in 2022, which was essentially compiling and editing a huge list of everything that's been seen across the whole complex. And we had a surprising lack of insect data with the exception of a couple pollinator surveys. And I had the ingenious idea of, I can start mothing at the refuge. I've been doing this for long enough. I can get us at least some insect data. And so that started a year-long study of just one location. And then the next year I did 6 locations on the refuge. And now I'm just kind of bouncing around wherever, whenever on Ottawa. But I have probably put in over 50 surveys here at this point. I wish I had a number for the species total, but it has changed dramatically over the last year or so.
That's awesome. So you said you started doing these for the sake of the species list. How has this kind of turned, how has the project kind of developed? So I know now you do sort of public events. So could you speak a little bit on the goals? So getting people out and interested in insects. So the outreach component as well as scientific research. Could you then get into maybe are there any trends you're seeing with species or maybe other certain variables that these critters are kind of correlated with?
Yeah, so definitely. The outreach side of things, I am always excited to show this other world to people because when I had the realization that there was this whole layer of nature out there that I hadn't known about. It's such a fascinating feeling to kind of have the blinders taken off to this incredible new experience. And I like sharing that with as many people as I can. So yeah, I've started doing some public events at the refuge. I help out with public events out at Irwin Prairie in the oak openings. Yeah, just kind of any chance I can take to get people out there and being hands on and being able to show something to somebody and have it feel more tangible to them always gets people more hooked than just talking about it to them. So absolutely love getting people out there if they're willing to sleep deprive themselves for this, like I am.
And get bitten by bugs.
Yes, that does happen. As far as the research side is concerned, me being a data junkie, I record anything and everything I can. So I've been keeping track of temperature, humidity, cloud cover, moon phase, literally everything to see if there are trends as to when we are seeing certain species and where. So I've been logging everything based on ecoregions, US EPA ecoregions. And like I said earlier, I've got an enormous spreadsheet with over 200 surveys now, logging all of that data. When I see things, where I see them, all the weather conditions, all of that. And as far as trends, I think I'm still kind of in the data collection phase right now. I haven't, you know, taken too much of a deep dive into the actual analysis portion because you'd be surprised how long it takes you to accumulate enough data because you'd think you'd see the same things pretty regularly, but there are so many
a large
things.
Enough sample size.
Exactly. There are so many things where even after 200 surveys, I've still only seen once, twice, three times. Like you're not just gonna get, you're not gonna get enough data points for those for a really long time. The more common ones, I've got a lot to go off of, but just haven't taken that plunge quite yet.
Do you have a goal that you would like to reach before you maybe start working on that? Like, is it 400 surveys or just kind of, you'll know it when you feel it?
It's just a feel that I'm going for.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to branch out and get enough different locations in also, so it's not just, well, I've got a good feel for this spot, but it's only for this spot and it's only helpful on this very local scale.
Then you're getting spatial autocorrelation.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So we'll see when we cross that bridge.
Okay. Well, we'll come back for another episode when you have crossed that bridge. We'll let the people know. He's been telling us about the mothing research that he's doing at the refuge and how he's now taken this into public outreach events that everybody can kind of come get hands-on experience this world of moths. So could you tell us a little bit more about how you actually go about the mothing process?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different options. The most common one, at least that I employ, is called sheeting, where you just put a big white sheet out wherever you want to look and you shine a light on it. Usually it's black light. UV is best. The one that I specifically use is a fancy one. It's got two different wavelengths of LEDs. It's the 365 and the 395 nanometers.
So is that they're attracted to these different wavelengths? Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's been research done by people with doctorates who are above me in knowledge level, and there's been a general consensus that those are two of the most effective wavelengths at attracting nocturnal insects, especially moths.
Do you know why?
I have no idea.
Does anyone know why?
That's a big debated question still. You're going to get different answers depending on who you ask.
Gotcha.
You're going to get the answer of it most closely resembles the wavelength of natural, like celestial lights that they use to navigate off of, like the moon and the stars. You're going to get answers that it mimics a pheromone response in them that they're drawn to it. You're going to get five different answers if you ask five different people potentially. And there might be a more recent consensus that I'm just not privy to, but I've not yet heard of a definitive, yes, this is why we think this works, which is also kind of fascinating. That we know it works and we're not 100% sure why it works is really cool. But yeah, you don't have to get fancy with it. I've used a little black light bulb from Walmart with great success before. Mercury vapor lights work really well. The downside is they're expensive, hard to get, and they get extremely hot. And they cook things that come into contact with them. So you're going to barbecue some moths when you use those. And if you get it wet, it will explode while you're using it. So I've shied away from that route recently in favor of
tip for those trying this at home.
Light. Yeah, don't go mercury vapor. But yeah, that's the sheeting approach. White sheet, shine a light on it. There's also moth baiting, where you put something with a lot of sugar in it out on a log or a stump or a rock, and certain groups of moths are very drawn to that high sugary sustenance that they want.
I feel like with that you might kind of just get any other sort of bug that's interested in sugar.
You'd get flying squirrels too, potentially.
Interesting.
We do see flying squirrels when we're out doing this. I haven't baited in a long time, mostly because I don't like having a witch's brew in my house of beer, bananas, brown sugar, whatever, what have you.
Sounds delicious.
To put in this. There's light traps that kind of exploit the same phenomenon that the light sheeting does, where it funnels them into this box, and then you can open the box and see what you got. It's kind of nice because it's way more passive, even more so than the sheet, where you just put it somewhere, wherever you want. You let it run overnight. You come check it in the morning. You can get sleep if you want, if you're into that. But then it's kind of hard when you open the box. They fly away sometimes. So I tried this before. I have a trap that I made out of a plastic tote and a styrofoam fishing cooler from a Dollar General, and it worked. And in order to not lose the moths that I caught overnight, I opened it inside of a tent so that I could see all of them without letting them get away. But then the problem that I had was, instead of a box full of moths, I had a tent full of moths, and it took me many hours to adequately photograph and release all of said moths. I have not done that again since, but that is a route that some people take.
So once you've got, I feel like sheeting's, like you said, the most common method. Once you've got these moths on the sheet, what's the process look like from there?
Mostly for me, I just take pictures of them. Some people will collect to dissect or analyze the DNA. I don't have...
for those that like pin stuff too?
Yeah.
Okay.
For real, actual lepidopterists who work in a lab or a university, they will collect specimens. They will take them back. They will dissect them, because there's so many that you have to dissect in order to actually identify properly. You can't identify them just visually. I don't do any of that. That's all above my pay grade. I do the best I can with pictures.
Okay.
So I've just been photographing everything I find and identifying it when I get the time. I put everything on iNaturalist for the most part. So if you want to stalk me on there, I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of moth photos over the last few years, especially. And I just do my best to ID what I can visually.
So once you have those photographs, are you using a field guide to help you? Are you using suggestions? Like, I know iNaturalist pops up the suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
What are you using to, like, let's say somebody's a beginner and they want to try this at home. How would you suggest they go about this?
There's one rule that I think you should always try and remember with most things in life, but especially with this, because this is something that I discovered. I've been doing this for over 12 years, and even this last year, I discovered that I didn't know how much I didn't know.
That's a good rule to live by.
There is always more. So iNaturalist does give you pretty decent suggestions for the most part, especially for the common stuff that a lot of people are reporting. That algorithm has been trained really well on stuff that is commonly encountered. The common ones have lookalikes that you don't know about, that iNaturalist doesn't know about, because people who are seeing them don't know about them. So they're reporting them as the common thing, even though they might not be.
So then you're skewing the data to make it seem even more common.
You should always double check. Never just rely on iNaturalist.
So would you say, sometimes maybe the best way to learn is to pick up a field guide like you did and just fumble your way through it? And it's okay, you don't have to be right. We're not doing, publication, research grade stuff here. But if people are interested in learning at home, just reading their field guide and doing the best they can and just kind of looking really closely at pictures. And
yeah, absolutely. Okay. I started doing this in my grandparents' backyard when I bought the field guide. I made so many mistakes.
Very user-friendly.
Oh,
I feel like there's not a lot of research things like this that people can very easily pick up the equipment at Walmart and kind of teach themselves. So I feel like that's a great way of this and like you said, it teaches people a whole new world to nature. So that's a really approachable way for people to get out and explore.
Yeah, you can start doing this for under $50. Or you can do it to the max and buy expensive lights and make expensive wooden frames for your sheets like I do, but you by no means are obligated to do what I do.
You heard it here first, folks. The hot new hobby of the summer is mothing.
It seems to be getting a little more popular. I feel like I run into more people who do this.
I feel like there's, especially kind of mothing, birding, herping, they've all kind of gotten the right PR, I guess you would call it, recently. And I feel like especially with folks in kind of Trevor and I, our age group and our generation, like birding's making a comeback. And I feel like the same thing with mothing. I see a lot of herping on my feed on the social medias and fishing. So I think people are taking more to the outdoors, and approachable ways like this are a great way for people to kind of explore that.
I feel like a lot of that probably stemmed out of the pandemic era too, when people were social distancing and not doing things with friends. These are all easy things you can go do by yourself.
You can have friends
in
too,
your own home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
with
can.
Or without friends. Friends are optional.
You can. If you have people who are crazy enough to follow you into the woods at night to look at bugs, yes. Keep those people around. They're great.
Those are good friends.
But speaking back to how I go about identifying, field guides are great. I got my start with the Peterson guide. Not to sound too full of myself, I've kind of outgrown the Peterson guide at this point. When you do this for long enough, you realize...
you're doing it for work now too, not just fun. So it does take you to a different level.
There are, I want to say maybe 1,900 species in the Peterson guide, and that's for Northeastern U.S. as a whole. There are anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 species in Ohio alone. So the longer you do this, the more you're going to encounter things that just aren't in those kind of guides, which they're very, very, full of helpful knowledge when you're first starting out. Like if you don't have a baseline or anything, I am not saying like you shouldn't because they're not, inclusive enough of the local species assemblage. That's not it by any means. Most of the stuff that you're going to notice when you first start doing this,
they're going to be in there. Yeah,
are in that book. But there's phenomenal online resources aside from iNaturalist. I use Moths of North Carolina a lot, even though we're not in North Carolina. There's a lot of species overlap. Has great species descriptions. Moth Photographers Group, Bug Guide, all of those websites are fantastic. Photographic sources. You can check range maps, timeline throughout the year to kind of validate, because each species in general has what's called a flight period, where you might find this from June through August. You might find this only in April, like at different timings where they're flying. And so you can check those resources to see this is when people see this species. And there's 9 other lookalikes that are in the summer and yours was in the spring. So it actually probably is this one early flyer. And none of those are in the field guides. Yeah, there's all sorts of things. There's so many rabbit holes you can go down if you choose to.
So naive question here about moths. You said a flying period. What is, I guess, I don't really know much about their life cycle and their stages. So outside of that flight period, are they flightless? Are they kind of dormant in a cocoon? What is
dormant?
Basic life of a moth?
Dormant or dead?
Dormant. Okay, so they're very seasonal.
Yes.
Very seasonal. Okay.
So there's a lot that will only live for 1 year, that will be born and die within a calendar year. There's some that do overwinter as adults. There's actually a lot that overwinter as adults. You and I found that Herald Moth in the Agra drain I think a little over a year ago. Herald Moth is
Yeah.
a great example of one that overwinters in the adult stage. They find a nook or a cranny, whether it be under tree bark, under leaf litter, in this case an agri-drain, and they'll hole up in there for the winter, wait out the inclement weather, and then emerge again in the spring to do all the things that they are here to do. Some overwinter in the pupa stage, some overwinter in the caterpillar stage, some don't even live through the winter at all.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's
So
very different depending on each type of species. There is no kind of like catch-all there.
yeah, actually,
Gotcha.
let me amend that. That last part did not make sense. That some don't live through the winter at all. I should not have said that.
They would okay,
'Cause
so
that
they would
makes
be
it.
more
They
like
wouldn't
an egg,
exist if that were
not
the
an egg,
case.
but yeah, maybe that's what like the pupa stage.
Yes,
Okay.
that's more what I meant. They don't exist as adults.
But they're
at
not
all.
flying around as a moth at that point.
There
the
are
moth is the adult
some.
stage.
There are some that will fly in the winter.
Okay.
I have put lights out in January on not terrible nights, and I have gotten, granted, one,
Not as many, yeah, for
two,
sure.
maybe.
It probably
But there
somewhere
are
further south.
hardier.
There's probably more too, but
There are.
being in Ohio, especially further north,
Yes.
that's understandable. Okay, so well, I hope this section is giving people some ideas, and maybe they can go mothing at home. Maybe we're gonna inspire a moth revolution. I don't know.
I hope so. August is best around here,
Around here,
the
okay.
Oak Harbor area. I, in my opinion, over the last few years, August seems to be the most productive.
Most productive in terms of sheer like biomass that you're getting, or variety, or both.
Yeah, variety especially. So I don't necessarily keep track of how many of a species I see in one night, just because unless you're standing there staring at it, keeping track of what comes and goes the whole night, it's very hard to determine if you had 6 or 12 or 2.
Gotcha.
Sometimes.
If it was the same exact moth or not.
Yeah. So I just keep track of essentially just presence absence data. So
Gotcha.
number of species, I've pushed 90 here at the refuge in August.
1 evening?
Yes.
Which pretty impressive.
Is very good until you go down to southern Ohio. If you go to Hocking Hills, you could, on a good night, you could have over 300 species.
Very relevant. It's relevant though to our area.
Yeah.
Understandable.
But August seems to be a good time. If you want to see a lot in one night in one spot, August.
Sounds good. Okay, so now is kind of your time to maybe flex on the people, or I guess get everybody interested. So what would you say is the coolest moth you've had show up on one of your sheets? And okay, let's start. I know you've done some mothing in other places, so I'm talking specifically at the refuge here.
At the refuge, okay.
Yeah.
That does narrow it down significantly, and that eliminates half of the other things I was gonna say. Oh, that's a tough one, making me choose between my children like that. At the refuge, Alamo Moth,
Okay.
maybe.
What makes it so cool?
It's yellow. That's pretty cool.
So it's just like very striking visually.
It's a really cool bright yellow moth. It's one of the, I believe it's one of the aquatic cryptids. It's mostly further south of here though. We're kind of on the northern edge of its range, and I've only ever seen it one time, ever, and it was here at the refuge. So that one really surprised me because it's one I'd never seen before. I'd just seen it in the field guide, and I was just this big yellow thing.
It's like seeing
on
a
the
celebrity
page.
online. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
and then you see them in person.
and I ran out and I saw it was sitting on the light, not the sheet. And I just wigged out. I was like, that's it. That's the Alamo. I've never seen it, but I knew it was instantly just because of how striking and different it is in the field guide.
There aren't many yellows like that.
Not a lot that are that size. I mean, I'm probably making this thing sound. It's like, 1.5 wingspan. It's not huge, but it's very pretty. I get excited by the little guys. Everybody likes the big, showy silk moths, and they are phenomenal. I love them. I've gotten a Polyphemus on the refuge before. That's one of the bigger, kind of orangey ones.
I think you showed me a picture of that one. That one was pretty big, yeah.
I don't think I've had a Luna on the refuge before.
I've only ever seen a Luna moth once, like in person, and it was not in the state of Ohio.
Yeah,
I know they're here.
They are. I've had them. And they're more common. I run into them down south.
Gotcha.
Not even specifically southern Ohio. I'm from Mansfield. I found them in Mansfield
Just
before,
not here.
but I haven't seen them up here yet.
Okay, so then let's broaden that question. So the Alamo Moth was probably the coolest one that you've had here. Coolest ever.
Coolest ever?
Not just restricted to the refuge now.
That actually, surprisingly enough, gets a little bit easier. It's one from earlier this year. I have a research permit to do all of this crazy stuff at Cedar Bog down in Urbana, Ohio. Famously not a bog. It's a fen. Go figure.
Look it up, people. There's a difference.
Cedar Bog is a great, strange little place. And I've done a few surveys there. I did a few last year, and I've done one already this year. Sorry, 2 already this year. And out in the middle of the sedge meadow, in the middle of the fen, I found this weird little shiny thing that I'd never seen before. No idea what it is. Never seen it in a guide, never seen it on iNaturalist, never seen it in person anywhere. So I take a bunch of pictures of it. We had 4 or 5 of them on the sheet. And I go scrolling through iNaturalist because even if the suggestions don't help you out, which in this case they did, had no idea what it was looking at.
Sometimes it's crazy suggestions. I'm like, why would you say that?
It gives me fish. It does give me fish sometimes for moths. But it had no idea what it was looking at. But if you scroll through a group, like a taxonomic, like a family or an order or a tribe, whatever level that you think it's in, and you just scroll through the species, you can find something that looks pretty close. And I found this thing. It was Orpholepis Balaghi. I was like, I think that's it. I did a little bit more digging. It turns out it hosts exclusively on shrubby cinquefoil, which is a fen plant that's right next to our sheet that night.
Makes sense.
So I posted that, and as far as I know, nobody has corrected me. Nobody has validated it, but nobody's corrected me. But I spoke just this last weekend, actually. I was up at Saxon Bog in Minnesota, helping out with their BioBlitz, running a moth station for them. I spoke with a guy who is colleagues with the person who that moth is named after.
Oh, so he probably knows what he's talking about, yeah.
Who described it, and he was absolutely floored that we had something like that in Southern Ohio. He thought that was incredible, and that's why I love doing this. You never know what you're going to find. You never know where you're going to find it.
And it's cool those connections like you had of working with the colleague of the person that discovered this. Like you never, it's such a small world, but it's also such a big world.
Yeah. It's unusual to be reminded how many other people there are that do this and how many of them know even more than you do. Like
but it's humbling in a really cool way.
Oh, it is. It's incredible. There's always somebody who knows more than you. Always. With the exception of a very, very select few people on this planet, there's always somebody who knows more than you. So it's cool to encounter those people.
And to find them and then bug them and pick their brain.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's probably my favorite ever, just because it was incredibly unexpected. It's a pretty little thing. It's iridescent. It's kind of shiny, coppery.
I'll have to, for people listening, I'll try and find a photo of one of those or have Trevor send me a photo, and I'll make sure to put those up on the screen so you can see all of these things that he's talking about. But yeah, it's those moments like that of the unexpected beauty and surprise. I feel like for me, at least, those are the moments, or even just the moments of having that connection with somebody else, of them experiencing that and having those first time moments that I sit back and I just have such a deep gratitude of like, this is why we do what we do. And it's a really cool moment. Because
nobody knew they were even in Ohio. Like there's only a couple observations somewhere in Canada, at least on iNaturalist. It's not a very commonly observed moth. And yeah, he was shocked that it would be in Southern Ohio all the way down there. Because I guess it's in more of the northern fens. I think he's seen them. But yeah, we wouldn't have known that it was in this area if I hadn't gone and looked. So it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding. I love it. I love the feeling. So with that, what would be maybe a bucket list moth? Is there one that you've seen in a field guide or online that people have talked about that you're like, I need to see it, I need to find it, even if you had to travel to find it? I'm very willing to travel. Two very stereotypical ones, I guess I could say. Atlas moth. They're huge. Their wings look like snake heads. They're incredible.
That's crazy.
I believe they're in Southeast Asia somewhere. I would love to go there for many, many reasons. So that could be on that list for sure. Madagascan sunset moth.
Just sounds cool.
It looks like a butterfly.
I'm assuming it's in Madagascar.
It looks like a butterfly, which, by the way, sorry to ruin this for everybody. Butterflies are moths, every single one of them. But it looks like what you would stereotypically just call a butterfly.
So is it sort of like the all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles sort of thing? All moths are butterflies, but not all butterflies are moths.
Backwards, but yes.
You know what?
Yes.
Yeah, people know what I mean.
Yeah, all butterflies are moths.
Okay.
So it's not, there's the taxonomic order Lepidoptera, which includes all moths and all butterflies. You can never evolve out of a group, no matter how hard you try. They're always going to be part of that. So, and they're wedged firmly in the middle too. If you look at a taxonomic tree of Lepidoptera, you've got a whole bunch of little tiny guys in the beginning, a whole bunch of the bigger moths at the end. Butterflies are smack dab in the middle. They're not even on an end where you could maybe parse them out if you tried really hard. No, they're right in the middle. They're all moths.
So basically, they just needed better PR to be like butterflies then.
Yeah, exactly.
The butterflies just happen to get the really good marketing team.
Butterflies are big and out during the day. A lot of other moths are out during the day, but they're secretive and tiny.
So this is our mission. We're going to make moths the new butterfly.
Sure.
Even though they already are, but you know what I mean? We're going to make it happen, people. So along with a lot of their other friends, the pollinators, moths are facing some decline and conservation threats. Can you speak to a little bit, maybe what are some of the causes that would be leading to these threats and declines?
Yeah, so I think a blanket cause for a lot of declines in species is habitat loss. There's always a new subdivision going in somewhere, and that's a lot of lawn now.
Rather than natives.
Yeah, a lot of lawn, a lot of cultivar, greenhouse plants, a lot of annuals. People love their annuals. And that's one of the best ways to help promote conservation of pollinators and insects in general is planting native plants in your yard, like the space that you control to a degree. You can turn what would be mostly a dead space into a little safe haven, or like the monarch way stations where people plant milkweed in their yard for the migrating monarchs. You can do that with a lot of other species that are always here too. Not trying to say monarchs don't deserve the spotlight at all, but there's so much else that goes on every day in your local area that you can also
and they would
help.
all benefit.
Yes.
Making it a monarch way station benefits more than just monarchs. It's
Exactly.
sort of an umbrella species in terms of conserving these things. Yeah. And I think that's something that people often forget too, is when they hear habitat, I think they think mainly these large swaths of land. They think places like the refuge that are 8,000-10,000 acres at a time. But even if somebody is just doing a quarter-acre plot in front of their lawn, providing native plants, especially providing a water source for things, that does make a difference, because even if that is maybe just like a little stepping stone over to a larger habitat source, really any place of any size that can help add up, Mm-hmm. Yes, it is a trickle in the bucket, but eventually all the trickles add together and we have a bucket full of it.
Yeah, exactly. Doug Tallamy has a great project. I believe it's called Homegrown National Park.
We carry several of his books in the nature store. Actually, I'm really interested in, and a lot of them are what can you do at home.
Mm-hmm. Nature's Best Hope. That's the one. I got to see him give that talk a few years ago. Great presenter, great speaker. And he talked about that whole project where it is essentially, if one person does it, no, it's not a tremendous difference, but that one person doing it here and that one person doing it here and here and here and here and here, and slowly but surely you add up to something much bigger when you scale out. So I mean, it's not a lot like recycling, like aluminum can recycling. It doesn't make a difference. That can you threw in there in that bin right now, you didn't just save the world, but everybody doing it
Together we are.
accomplishes a lot. And if everybody were to stop because, oh, well, this one thing I did didn't actually help, I'm not going to bother, that's when things start to go south again.
It starts with the mindset,
Yeah.
and then taking action from there. I'm glad you mentioned that book. I know that one. We sell several of his in the Rookery Nature Store here, and I know they're on my they're in my to be read list as well as in my consideration list for our book club. So I might have to bump that up in priority, and especially that would be good for maybe people to read over the winter, planning for their gardens for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has the mantra, if you plant it, they will come.
Oh, like the Field of Dreams?
Yeah. So he talks about he wanted to see a certain species of moth in his yard. So he planted its host species, and then, a year or so goes by and he starts to see it. And they're like, if you give the thing what it wants, it will find it. Eventually it will come to that little haven that you've made for it, because your yard is still habitat. Cities are still habitat. We are not separate from nature. It still exists in those spaces. So it's kind of up to you as to how good of a habitat you want to make it. And obviously there's limitations to these things, but everybody can do a little bit.
And it's a good place to, you can start with one little thing. And I think some of the big things that really resonated in my head when you were speaking there was it took him a year or so to see that moth. So remembering that these things take time, but also I really liked what you said about we are not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. We evolved from being more simpler creatures. We came from nature. So we need to, that's how I think we heal nature, is we be a part of nature and kind of commune with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the significance of planting native, is because even cultivars of native plant species are not as beneficial to the organisms that are around, because it isn't truly what they've evolved alongside.
Yeah, that was something that my training is not as a botanist, and but as having a biology background, I've always heard plant natives, but I had never thought of until we had Todd Crail here with Guts from the University of Toledo, and he was talking about the plants that they were selling for our native plant sale. He was like, not only are they native plants that are from this region, but the genome is pulled from plants that basically the brood stock or the seed stock is from the oak openings region. Yeah. So they are like extra good for you. So it's like not only eating an apple, but then eating a non-GMO organic apple. It's just extra.
It's going that extra step.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that was an extra step we could take. So it's cool to see, you can start at this very basic level, and making any difference is good, but then ways that you can kind of up your impact and get the most bang for your buck and really get into it if you have the means and the resources to do so.
And a lot of those plants are hardier too,
because they're meant to be easier. Used to these.
Exactly. This is where they're from. This is their home. They're not going to be fragile. You don't need to worry about frost. You don't need to worry about a harsh winter. They're fine. They're going through that out there all the time. So it's less maintenance on your part. It's less money you're spending in the long run.
It sounds like everybody wins.
Them. I mean, I see no downside. And then you can become like me and be a data junkie and record all the moths you see in your yard at the different stages of a planting. Like, oh, I put this in here, and now I started seeing this, and I put this over here, and now this is here. Plant oak trees. Everything loves oak trees. It won't be 100 feet tall in your lifetime, but you'll still make a lot of things happy.
And eventually it will be.
Notice those differences. Yeah.
To recap everything that we have talked about today, our guest is Trevor Zook, and he is a wetland technician here, and he's been volunteering here since he was just a wee little naturalist. Started as an intern, and now he's built a career here at the refuge. He's continually expanding his expertise and knowledge, everything from birds to now moths, knows a lot about plants as well. So the mothing is kind of a more recent, I think, expertise launch into doing that in more of a research manner. And we've also now started hosting mothing events, so expanding that into a public outreach kind of sector here so that we can get the public interested and also help us better understand the ecosystem. And it really provides a different way for us to connect to the public, as well as we hit on some different ways that people can do some work at home to help moths, but also just the greater ecosystem around them. And so today for our take-home message, we really wanted to talk about how can you help moths at home. I know we talked a lot throughout the program about how people can get into mothing and just kind of noticing nature where you are, but we talked a bit about native plants. So like we said, any drop in the bucket helps. So if you can be putting more natives back in your yard, especially rather than just lawn, not trimming those hedges so there's more complex habitat, limiting your use of pesticides.
Also, leave your leaves. That's another one,
Yes.
because there's a lot of moths that will use the leaf litter for pupating, and when you mulch up the leaves, you're chopping up Io moths and other things. So not to go too hard on the guilt tripping, but
But also, who likes to
when you
rake their leaves
can,
anyways? That's no
exactly,
fun.
it's
So
so boring.
you can use us an excuse. If somebody wants you to rake your leaves, you can just tell them Alex and Trevor said not to, and we'll take the fall there.
Yeah, happy to.
And some more events. So, like I mentioned, we're doing public mothing events. So, I know the first one we've got on the calendar, and you said August is usually the best time of year. The first one we have is actually July 25th at 9:30 p.m.
July's still good.
July is still
July's
good, but we're almost hitting August. So
Yeah.
we're kind of starting to ramp up the season. So that's the first of all of them that are going to be on our calendar. And for that, it will be here at Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge. Since that is after hours, our gates will be closed, but we'll have somebody up at the front to let you through that main gate, give you instructions on where to go. We have all of this information on our Facebook page as well as on our Eventbrite, and I can leave those links in the description of this video. So we hope to see you out there. And then we will also be having August 21st through 23rd will be our big bug bio blitz. And so we will have everything from hopefully some mothing events, some guided hikes, maybe some workshops, some more research or lecture style talks. I don't want to say lecture because that's kind of intimidating.
Presentations.
But presentations, people sharing their knowledge through lots of different forms of learning. And so hopefully we'll have some more details out for that soon. And that'll just be another great day for people to come explore and get to know the refuge through maybe some of the smaller critters and building our species list.
Yeah, and the plan right now is, weather permitting, we'll be doing a moth night Friday, Saturday, and maybe even Sunday night if anybody's crazy enough to stick around for that. Maybe locals.
Maybe I'll give you a sticker if you make it to all three. So yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, and we'll have some more details coming out soon with flyers. Again, usually all these events can be found on our Eventbrite and on our Facebook page. So we hope to see you there. Thank you for being here, Trevor. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. This was great.